Greetings. Well, it is now moving into week 7 of Church History 1. I hope you're doing well. We have one more week, and we will be bringing this course to a close as we move toward Reformation. The Protestant Reformation, which modern church history, which will be Church History 2, 500 years. First course has been 1,500 years, and so we've moved relatively fast. Again, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're working on your research paper. I want to speak to you in this video about the concept of Christendom. And to do that, we have to back up for a moment and look at the big picture of world history and in general, and church history specifically. Most historians view history as 4 different segments. Now I'm talking about secular history now, not church history. And those 4 segments are first off prehistory. But then when we move into the actual writing of history, there's the ancient world. So in terms of written history, there's the ancient world, the Middle Ages, and modern history. The ancient world, or ancient history, would be Greek and Roman. Now, of course, this is all Western history. This is not Asian or African or South American, obviously, but Western history, which is Eurasia. And ancient history is the Greek and Roman Empire. Modern history dates from the Renaissance and the Reformation, about 1500, and till the present. So what we have is ancient, modern, and in the middle is a 1,000-year period, which is generally called the Middle Ages. Now, obviously, whenever the Middle Ages was taking place, they weren't calling it the Middle Ages. They didn't have that term. That's our term. We invented it in modern times, looking back at this 1,000-year period called the Middle Ages. Why is it called that? Because it seems that nothing really happened. It's in between. Modern times, we are moving forward. Ancient times, they were moving forward. Middle Ages, they held steady. That's not totally the picture, but that's the reason for the term. Now, let's look at church history. Church history breaks into easily 4 segments, 500-year periods. The first 500 years, the 1,000-year period of the Middle Ages breaks into 2 500-year periods, and then the modern times dating from the Reformation. Now, each of these 500-year periods culminates in a major event. And so here's the way you can view church history from a broad perspective. First 500 years, which we would call the early church, the church under Rome, but it culminates in 500 years. That era ends with the fall of Rome about 455 or 476, depending on which historian you read. First 500 years ends with the fall of Rome. Second 500 years ends with the Great Schism, 1054, when Rome and Constantinople divide. Third 500 year ends in what's called the Great Reformation. Notice the word great recurring. 517, when Luther nails the 95 Theses on the Wittenberg door. That brings us up to present, so the reason why I mention this is what's going on now. We're due for a major shift now. Now, whether or not that has happened or is happening, usually it's only in the aftermath that the true historic significance is assigned. And so a view of church history, I would suggest that part of this entire story is the concept of Christendom. So to understand that, we will look at one of the chapters in our text for this week, which deals with Charlemagne and the idea of Christendom. 800, Christmas Day, 800 A.D., Leo III, the Pope at that time, calls for Charlemagne, the ruler of the Franks, to come south to help him. And it is said that this was not planned, but it was a somewhat spirit-led moment that Pope Leo walks over to Charlemagne as he kneels in prayer, places a crown on his head, and declares him to be the emperor. And thus begins a period of expansion. You can read about it in your text. That is a revisiting of Rome, a revisiting of the Roman Empire. Everything flows out of Rome, and that's where Charlemagne was crowned. And with that, I'd like to mention another overview of history. The idea of the Roman Empire, or of empire in general, has gripped humankind. And when Alexander the Great expanded his kingdom, there was an idea of the unifying of humanity around one ruler, Alexander being that ruler at the time, and he expanded, in his words, as far as he could go. The Roman Empire came after that, and again conquered as far as they could go, the known world, at least in the West. And then Charlemagne picked the gamut up, and he endeavored to expand and to revisit the Roman Empire, and therefore he called it the Holy Roman Empire. So we have, at this point, the Greco-Roman Empire of ancient times. We have the Holy Roman Empire of medieval times. And then in the modern day, we have the Third Reich, which was the third rule, which was Hitler in the 1940s, who thought once again to reestablish the Roman Empire. That was his endeavor. This idea has gripped human history, and particularly leaders who have expansionist ideas. Now, obviously, the Third Reich failed, but the idea lives on of rulership. We have it today, certainly not in a militaristic form, but in the European common market, which is the United States of Europe, an endeavor to unite humankind under a ruler. So we had Christendom. Now, what is Christendom? Christendom is not Christianity, but it is the welding together of Christianity with the state, and it is a distortion. And by that, Christianity has been hurt. And what Christendom is whenever you take Christianity and make it so a part of the state that to be a citizen is to be a Christian. Therefore, we would have ideas like Germany under Hitler was a Christian nation. We could also add that America would be called a Christian nation. Now, I'm not going to say that we are not founded on Christian principles, but the idea of Christendom is not a good idea, because what it does, it distorts the idea or the concept of justification or salvation. To be a citizen is to be a Christian. Robert Bellah, the great sociologist and commentator on culture, wrote that Christendom is going down. And Christendom was that whereby any part of the culture to gain credibility identified with Christianity. And so therefore, in that identification, the idea of Christianity pervaded every segment of the society, and to be a part of that culture was to be a Christian. The Catholic Church even today is built on these ideas so that they would call regions to be parishes, and their bishops. It's a carryover of medieval times. Now, if we want to look at the great transition that's taking place in our day, I would say, now again, history will write this, that Christendom is dead. Now, you've heard it said that we were in a post-Christian era. I would disagree with that and say we're not in a post-Christian era or time of history. Christianity is as strong now as it's ever been and will continue to grow. And particularly in Third World, Christianity is growing rapidly. We are not in a post-Christian era. We are in a post-Christendom era. No longer is it a credit to a politician to say he's a part of First Baptist or First Episcopalian Church so that he can get elected. Maybe in certain parts of the South where I live, that might be an important factor, but in large areas of our nation, it's just simply not there anymore. We are in what would be called a post-Christendom era of history, and it is a part of what America has done insofar as not establishing a church state, or a state church, I should say. A state that is identified with a particular brand of Christianity or a particular religion in general. Again, broad view, specific view. There's exciting times to be in because I believe that this transition is good for true Christianity. May we live out our faith in our time as others have in theirs. God bless you in your study.